Hello and welcome to Sitecore for Content Managers, Lesson 7, Internationalization. Today we're going to add language to our site. I'll show you how to add languages to an existing site. We're going to create language versions of our items, and this will enable us to add translated content. We're going to go over the concept of shared fields, and I'll show you a couple of places where those are applied and how they work with languages. Shared versus final renderings. You may have seen this when we did some work with presentation details. I'll explain how these two concepts work. And we'll do an XML export and import. And this is a workflow that could be used to send content to a translation service. All right, let's get into Sitecore. So in order to add languages to a site, you have to have the permission to do that. So I'm going to log in as admin. And you can see the admin has a few more apps available to them. So I'm going to go to Control Panel, and you can see even in Control Panel there's a lot more available to the admin. I'm going to add a new language. So we're going to add Spanish. You can see there's a lot of languages available to be used. I'm going to pick Spanish, Spain, I think. So yes. And I'll leave all of these settings. Okay. So now if we log out, log in as content author, we should be able to create Spanish items. Go to the control panel. If I pick my language selector, so Germany I added just before this, but here's Spain now. And you can see there are 0 versions. So we already talked about item versions in terms of changes, and you can see I've got, I'm on version 26 of the English item. And this German language item has, language version, sorry, has 3 updates. So when we talk about versions in Sitecore, it's referring to the, different iterations of changes and the versioning there, but it also refers to the language version. So just a slightly confusing concept there, but we don't have any versions at all. So in order to serve a Spanish page, we're going to need to add a Spanish version of this item. So we get a message here indicating that we don't have any Spanish versions. I'm just going to add one, and now we've got an empty item. So the reason, and this is to the shared concept, the reason the image comes through is because, and if we lock this, this field is set to shared. So all language versions will have the same image. This is a pretty typical approach. It doesn't really make sense to translate images. So instead of having to go in and re-add the image for every language version, it is possible to set a field as shared, and then that allows the same content to be applied across all versions, all language versions. Okay, so we've got a Spanish version. Let's get some content into it. I've got Google Translate open here. Got a tab for it. So I'm going to switch back to the English. And what we'll do is we'll translate our content. So I'm just going to grab this text, go into Google Translate, get a Spanish version. Then we switch to our Spanish item, paste in our translation, save it. So basically we're just working with our existing content, translating it, and then putting it into our new Spanish item. There's a lot of text. That's one thing about translations that it's important to remember, is that while the English, there may not be that much text. Not sure what happened with my cut and paste. But yeah, sometimes translated text amount can be a lot more. This one. So we'll just change our link. So our link was going to this preferred shares report. So we'll add that. Insert media link. And then I don't even know where I got this document from. And we'll just open that in a new browser. Keep our background. The reason we're getting a red line is because the while this is a shared field, there are some fields on the image item that need to be translated, like the alt tag. Okay, so let's save that. And let's just see if we can view this. So we're on the Spanish item. So if I hit preview, I can see the Spanish, some of the Spanish text that we've added already. So just to show how that works, if I switch to the English version and I hit preview, I can see my English page, and all of our content is here because we filled it all in. But if I go to our Spanish one, we've only done the banner content. So all of these components are missing their content because these images are shared, so they come through, but none of the text does because it's not shared. So let's go through maybe some of these as well. So we're in Spanish, and this item again doesn't have a Spanish version, so we need to create one. So let's do a little bit more translation here. So I'll just grab this, get a translation for it. Lock and edit. And, oh, I didn't want to do that. Just change that back. I can't undo. Go to my German or my Spanish one. This one I need to lock and edit. Okay. And then let's just translate this. I'm not going to go through all of these. This can be a pretty tedious exercise. So let's translate that. Paste that in. Save it. And then we can unlock it. So now if we go to our home page and we preview, you can see the Spanish text is starting to come through on these items. So one thing I also wanted to show, and let me just check that in, is our presentation details. So one thing that I changed on the site, so when we did the presentation details run through, there weren't any shared renderings. All of the renderings were, all of the components were placed in the final layout. So this shared layout works the same way as the shared image field, in the sense that these components will be shared across all language versions. So all languages will show all of these components. So you have the ability to control what components are shown on a page based on what language the user is using on the page. So the final layout defaults to just show the same components as the shared layout, but we do have the power here to potentially remove one of these, for example, or add another one, and that can be allow us to have a slightly different design, say, than what the English version of the page has. So let me just set up. Let's just do an example of that. I'll do Spanish versions of this. So I did go in before and I just created some better content for these. I doubt that's a correct translation. Oops. It's a good idea to keep the one that you're translating from locked and unlock the one that you're translating into, the version that you're translating into, so that you don't overwrite existing content like I just did on the other items. Let me translate this. Copy, and I will switch to Spanish. Paste that in. I think we just had a Google link. Yep. So let me add that. New browser. Again, shared field, so we share the this background image with all versions of this. And let me just give you a better idea of what that means. So I'm on the English version. I'm just going to go lock and edit, and I'm going to change this image. And I'm going to make it, I'm going to use this one. So if I save that, so now if I switch to the Spanish, so you can see it's also using that image. So it's shared across all languages, and the German version, same thing. And I believe from any version, if you update this image, it will share it across all of them. Okay, so save, and let's just make sure our Spanish version of this looks good. Just check that in. So if we go to our home page, preview, so now we've got this one filled in. I'm just going to do the other one. Add a new version. Translate it. Now this is definitely tedious, and I will show the XML export. However, there are third-party add-ins and tools that you can get. And what I've worked with is called SmartLink, and it integrates with Sitecore. And it allows you to interact, send documents back and forth between translation agencies and Sitecore, and it gives you a workflow. It's a great product. But this is something you can do if maybe you don't have a lot of pages and you just need to support a few other languages. Let's go here, save that, do another Google link. Okay, so we've got these two blocks and they're translated to Spanish. And if we go to our preview, so we can see they're here. And they are both displaying the same orientation. So let's change that. and go to our presentation details. So you do want to keep track of what language you're working in. So we are working in the Spanish. I go to the English version of the home page, presentation details, and I just hit edit. Just going to see. So I'm just going to reverse this one. That's on the shared layout. So now if we preview that, that one's reversed, and we should also see it reversed because I applied it to the shared one. Should also see it reversed here. Okay. Now what I can do is, maybe I don't want it reversed. So what I'm going to do is, I'm on the Spanish version, I'm going to go to the final layout. So this is the one that isn't shared across versions. It's only applicable to the current version. So let's try that, and let's preview. So you can see it's not reversed now. And what I'm expecting is if I go to the English version, it will still be reversed because the English version is using the shared layouts. So still reversed. So that is how you can control the design and the look and feel of your pages based on what language the user is using. So let's just do something slightly more interesting. So on the final layout, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this. So maybe we don't have translations for the second item, or we just don't want to show this on the Spanish site. So let's just remove that. So now, even though this is our shared layout, we're overriding it and we're saying we don't want that second image block for our Spanish version of this. So if we go to the preview, now we've only got the one. So I hope that makes sense. That's the idea of the shared fields and then the shared renderings. Okay, so let's sort out this this error here. I'll just show you how that works. So this is our smartphone image. I'm just going to go into the media library. It's under our USPs, PNGs. We'll just pick that one, and you can see that we've got no version for it. So let's create one. I'm just going to switch back to the English version. Just going to grab this text. We'll lock and edit. Translate it. Copy. Let's paste that in. Save it and unlock it. Okay, so now our item our USP, should be happy now. So we're on the Spanish version, and you can see that there's no more issue with the alt tag missing. Okay, so let's I'm just going to publish this. Just to be sure that that update is available, and then I'm going to go in here and push us through our workflow. Submit this item and approve. Same with this one, submit and approve. So if we go to our site, if I go to sandbox/en, that's our English site. If I go to sandbox ESES, it's our Spanish site. And you can see we've got a slightly different layout because we changed presentation details for the Spanish version only. And I believe the German version is also a little bit different, and it's reverse order, and there's no link. So that rounds out translation from the content editor, but let's just do XML export, and I'll show you how that works. First, I'm going to have to log out because that functionality is admin. So I've just switched to full screen because I'm going to be bringing up Notepad. I've logged in as admin, and I'm going to go to Control Panel, and we're going to go to this localization list and then export languages. So what I'm doing here is exporting items or an item, and I'm picking a specific language I want to export. So I want to export English because that's the base language that I'm using, and translating from that into my other languages. I have the terms of use page does not have a German version, so I'm going to use that as my example. I'm going to pick terms of use. So it is going to export a file to this temp folder on the web server. So let's call it terms DE. And we'll do a download. So there it is, terms DE. And we will right click on it and just open with Notepad. So here's the XML export of that item. It's a little tricky if you're not used to XML, but you can see here that the title field ID title, and here's the content, terms of use. And you can also see that our text, which is our rich text, and we've got a terms and conditions and a list, bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3. And then just some lorem ipsum. I'm not going to touch that. Let's just translate the title and this terms of use header. So first thing we need to do is, and that's really not a great name. I should have named it -en. But I will leave it DE because that is the target that we're going to create. So what I want to do here then is replace. I need to replace these EN tags with DE. So EN is now going to be DE-DE. That's our official language code. So replace all. I also need to do the same thing for the /ENs and make those /DEDs. So now Sitecore is going to see this file and it's going to think it's German content for this item. So let's make it German. So I'm just going to grab this, go to Google Translate, go to German, grab our translation, put that into Notepad. Let's also grab, so the terms of use content, make sure you pick the right thing, is right here. Terms and conditions. Copy and go back to Google Translate. And let's get the German version of that. And I'll just have to be very careful about not removing these characters. So save. So we replaced the language code and we've also updated the content. Save that, and then I'm going to go back to Sitecore and then just do an import. So import language, and I'm going to browse. So we'll pick the temp folder. So that's where we're going to upload to. Upload, choose file. I'm just going to pick this and then hit next. We don't need to overwrite. Let's find our file. We've uploaded it. It was called terms. There we go. Okay, so because we exported it, okay, so this, I probably should have hit overwrite on this one because we exported it as DE, and that's where I said earlier that I should have used EN. But it looks like what it did is, this is the English one, we don't want to use this, we want to use this one here. So we'll do that, hit next. It knows that it's German. We need to import it into master. And let's make sure we should now have a terms of use German version. So if we go to our terms of use, we've got a German version and a Spanish version. If I open this, you can see the title we added and this as well. So that is how you export and import XML to create language versions. Okay, so that rounds out translations and internationalization. So let's just go through what we've learned in this lesson. So we added a new language to the site. I need admin access to do that. We added Spanish. We created language versions of our items in Spanish, and we did some translations. We also talked a little bit about the idea of versioning in Sitecore and how it's a combination of language version as well as item change versions. Those two things come together to create your item version. We looked at shared and final renderings and the idea of shared fields as well, and just how you can share content across languages and change the presentation of your pages based on the language that your user is using. We did an export of an item as XML, we translated it, and then we imported it and created a new language version from the import. And then I showed you a little bit about previewing pages and how to do that in Sitecore, how to switch language, your language version on an item and then preview the page. So that's lesson 7, and we'll see you in the next lesson.